Hello everyone, this is Yana Smakula here at Spellbinders, and thank you so much for joining me today. This video marks the start of a new video series I'm hosting on Spellbinders blog and YouTube channel called Shaped Cards with Spellbinders. Once a month I will be sharing a card and video tutorial featuring a shaped card base using Spellbinders dies. You guys seem to love my original video series, Layered Dimensional Die Cutting, so I decided to introduce additional series and share even more tutorials using Spellbinders dies. I hope you'll enjoy these videos just as much. In the past, I never cared much for shaped cards and only made standard square or rectangular projects, but after making a few, I was hooked. This is something different, yet not hard to make. So let's jump right in. The card I'm sharing in this video first appeared in the Die Cutting Essentials magazine issue 25. I have more card making ideas in that issue in case you'd like to check it out. I will be using the following dies to create this project: Braided Grace Square dies, Ribbon Banner dies, and Tiny Tag Stamp and Die Set. So here's a quick look at the card that inspired this project. Although the card I will be making in this video will be slightly different, the card base and the basics of this project are the same. I used pearlescent white cardstock from Whirlwind and trimmed a 5 by 12 inch strip. I scored it and folded at 5 inches. To create the base for my card, I'm going to use the outer die from the Braided Grace Square set. And I love sets where I have an outer die, an outer outline die, and also a detail die. Sets like this offer you lots more die cutting options. To make sure I keep the fold in place and not accidentally cut it off, I'm going to tape my die onto my paper and I will position it so that the top cut edge goes a little bit outside the fold, just like so. This will ensure I do not cut two individual cardstock pieces, but will have that fold at the top that will connect the front and the back and will form the card base. Now for my die cutting today, I'm using Platinum 6 die cutting and embossing machine. The base platform of this machine has a cheat sheet for you. It tells you what sandwich you need to make to cut or emboss, so this is very handy. Of course, you can use Spellbinders dies in other die cutting machines, but I'm using my Platinum 6. I'm going to build the cutting sandwich and will cut the card base out. I'm able to cut through 2 pieces of cardstock no problem with this die. Going to clean up the little negative pieces and my card base is ready. Now you can keep the card base as is, or you can add detail onto the front of the card. I'm going to use the inlaid braid die for this. Notice I've opened my card base up. I don't want to cut through both the front and the back. I just want to cut through the front of my card. I've positioned my die and going to send it through the machine to cut. So here's our shaped card base all nice and finished. I love the way this turned out, very different from the traditional square card bases. The edge of this card is rather flat, so it stands no problem on its own. And next I'm going to cut a layer patterned paper onto my card to add a pop of pink. This paper comes from the Sweet Nothings 12 by 12 paper pad from first edition, but it's just plain pink paper, so you can use any paper you have. I've added double-sided sticky sheet to the back of my paper to make it easier to adhere this onto my card. You do not have to add sticky if you don't have any. After you cut it, you can adhere it in place using glue or double-sided tape, but having this sticky does make it much easier. I'm cutting it out using the outer and the inner dies. Technically, you don't need to cut the entire decorative shape. You can just cut the little insert, as that's the only part that will show in the finished card, and the loops will be covered with a gold foil die cut. Next, I'm going to die cut the gold foil layer. For this, I've trimmed a sheet of gold foil paper and fun foam to 5 by 5 inches and adhered the two together using double-sided sticky. I've added a layer of sticky to the back of the fun foam to make it easier to adhere it onto my card base. I'm cutting this element out using the outer outline die, detail die, and the inner outline die. I'm going to send this through the machine a few times to make sure it is perfectly cut, as this piece is very thick and it might not cut well if you send it through the machine just once. To save time on video, I've already die cut another element using the looped square die, the smallest one from the Braided Grace Square set. I cut it out of gold glitter paper and fun foam and adhered the two together. It also has sticky on the back to easily adhere it onto the card. I've die cut 2 tiny tags out of gold foil and white cardstock to house an additional sentiment. For the main sentiment for this card, I decided to use a banner from the older Spellbinders ribbon banner set. This is one of my all-time favorite sets from Spellbinders. You'll notice I die cut a few other pieces that I ended up not using for my card. I wasn't sure how I wanted to complete it, so it took me some time to figure out I wanted to use the ribbon banner die. But you can finish off the card using any other dies you like. You can add a flower or a shaped die cut or something else. Let's put this card together. I'm going to adhere the pink panel onto my card base first. Because I have sticky on the back of this die cut, it's very easy to adhere it in place and I don't have to fuss around with glue. Next, I'm adding the gold and fun foam die cut on top. And since this one has an opening in the middle, you could have skipped adding the large pink die cut and just cut the pink insert in the middle. That's what I should have done, but I didn't think about it at the time. And next, I adhered the looped square die cut inside the opening. I love the nice touch that this piece adds, and I also love that it's been cut out of gold glitter paper instead of gold foil. That adds a little bit of additional different texture. To create a bow for this card, I used an 1.25 inch wide silk ribbon from May Arts. I always seem to struggle with bows, but I love how they look on a finished project. So I cut 4 pieces of ribbon, 3 pieces to create the loops, and 1 piece to create the tails. I'm sure there is a simpler way to make a bow, but this is how I made mine. I looped 2 medium-sized ribbon pieces to create the 2 large loops. Next, while holding the 2 loops with my fingers, I looped the 3rd, smallest piece and clustered on top. Next, I added the longest ribbon piece from the back and tied everything together using gold thread. I fixed it a bit with my fingers and adhered onto my card. To create a sentiment for this project, I die cut a ribbon banner out of white pearlescent paper and heat embossed "You're a True Blessing in My Life" sentiment in gold embossing powder. The pearlescent cardstock has a sleek surface because of its coating, so not every kind of ink will dry on this paper. And to avoid having problems with my stamping, I heat embossed my message instead. This sentiment comes from Mama Elephant, his Love stamp set. I also heat embossed a tiny message that reads "For a sweet friend" onto a white die cut mini tag, adhered it onto gold tag, offset slightly, and adhered onto the card. I foam mounted the banner. I added 3 layers of foam adhesive in the middle and 1 layer on the edges to have a slight curve to this piece. I also embellished my card with self-adhesive pearls. And this finishes this video. I hope you've enjoyed the first episode from my Shaped Cards with Spellbinders video series. Be sure to hit thumbs up and share this video with your crafty friends. If you have any questions about this card, please leave them in the comments section below, and be sure to subscribe to Spellbinders YouTube channel for more education and inspiration. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. Bye!